The passage in Deuteronomy 7 where God says, wipe everybody out, women, children, everybody. The next verse says, and then don't intermarry with them. What? If everybody's wiped out, how could you intermarry with them?
Frank.
Hey.
My name is Thomas. I'm here with my wife, Veronica. We came here from Czech Republic.
From where?
Czech Republic, Europe.
All the way to Oregon for this event?
Okay.
No.
To be honest,
okay.
Yeah, we are here to make our US trip, but like your presentation was on my bucket list for a long time, and I want to thank you for all your contribution, what you do, because when I became a Christian, 2011, like your answers and your presentations helped me a lot, you know, to understand and to make it clear for me. So yeah, it answers some questions. I still have questions, more and more, of course, you know. So
we all do.
Yeah.
Nobody has all the answers. Well, I had all the answers when I was 17. Okay, but I've learned since then. But anyway, go ahead. Yes, sir.
The more I learn, you know, the more questions come. So one of the questions is, like, how would you explain or justify or for someone who see a parallel between the stories, mostly from the Old Testament, where God commanded, for example, King David, to go and kill some tribe or people, including women and kids, with some events which we can see right now in the world when someone in the name of God go and kill and bomb people, including women and kids. And if someone see the parallel between this and this, and we know that it's wrong what people do, and then we see that God commanded them to do something what looks similar, what would you tell to this?
Yeah, well, that's an excellent question, and it's kind of the Canaanite question. So let's take a look at the Canaanite question. You know, why did God command the killing of the Canaanites? Now, keep in mind that I'm going to give a very short answer here because there's a lot of nuance. There are books written on this. In fact, I was watching a podcast today from a guy who just wrote a book about this. But I'll give you a recommendation here. First of all, is it immoral for God to kill the Canaanites? First of all, if there is no God, killing anything isn't wrong, because, as we mentioned before, if there is no standard of righteousness we're obligated to obey and we don't have any ultimate value, killing human beings is no different in the scheme of things than killing bugs, because we're no more special than anybody else. So an atheist that brings this up, I'm going to ask, what's your moral standard by which you're claiming this is a problem? But it's a fair question for an atheist to ask, well, your God's a loving God? Why would he do this? Okay, fair question. All right. Next point. Is God arbitrary, or does he give reasons for judging people in the Old Testament? Key word, judging. Does God just wake up one morning and say, Canaanites, I want them dead, like he's a mafia boss? No. These Canaanites have been sacrificing, among many other evil things they were doing, they were sacrificing their babies to Molech, that molten hot god idol, where they'd heat up this metal idol, put their babies on it, and watch the babies basically get cooked before them. And even the Israelites were beginning to do this. And that's why Jeremiah, I believe in Jeremiah 7, basically says that you're going to be judged for this. Israel's going to be judged for this. And right after that, Nebuchadnezzar came in and wiped them out. So it's judgment. It's not just, hey, you know, I'm having a bad day. I want you guys dead. No, God waited 400 years before judging them. Also, and every college campus I go, atheists say, why doesn't God stop evil? Well, here's a situation where he does stop evil, but then they're complaining that he stopped it. Right? I mean, you can't have it both ways. You want him to stop it or not? Well, you know, he's killing the kids. Well, first of all, Paul Copan in his book, Is God a Moral Monster, points this out. The passage in Deuteronomy 7, where God says, wipe everybody out, women, children, everybody. The next verse says, and then don't intermarry with them. What? If everybody's wiped out, how could you intermarry with them? In other words, and there's other argumentation behind this, is the way people talked in the ancient Near East was sort of ancient Near East trash talk. They would exaggerate, annihilate them, which just means defeat them. When he used those kind of words, according to Copan, he didn't mean it literally. He meant that you need to push them out of the land. You know, there was only 2 offensive battles in the land of Canaan when the Israelites came in, Jericho and Ai. Everything else was defensive. Okay, and Jericho and Ai were forts. They weren't there to kill civilians. They were there to take the fort. And if a battle was about to occur, most of the civilians would have ran anyway and gone elsewhere. But let's assume for the sake of argument, it's not exaggerated, that God's literally told these folks to kill everybody and everything. Next point, is God committing murder by ending lives on earth? Can God murder someone? Is it murder for God? No, it's murder for us. It's not murder for God. God can kill any of us at any point for any reason. It's up to him. He's the creator of life and he can resurrect life. We can't. We don't have that authority. God does have that authority. In fact, God has the right to usher people into the next life, whether they are 2 years old or 82 years old. People never die, they just change location, if indeed Christianity is true. Also, we need to recognize that the Old Testament theocracy was unique and temporary. It was not the ideal for all time, but the means to a promised new covenant. And Paul Copan goes into this in detail. This book, Is God a Moral Monster? Making Sense of the Old Testament God, where he also points this out, by the way. God was concerned with sin, not ethnicity. In fact, as we read the Old Testament prophets, they, with God, are angered about Israel's disobedience, and they threaten divine judgment on Israel or Judah more often than they did on pagan nations. In fact, what did God do to the guys that worshiped the golden calf? According to Moses, kill them all, right? So it's not a genocide thing, it's a sinicide thing. And what you see today, and I'm shocked that this is happening here on American college campuses, but it is, and if you disagree with me, that's okay. This is going to be controversial, but you have the right to be wrong. There are people on college campuses that are actually supporting the new Nazi party. Has anyone in here read the Hamas charter? Do you know what's in the Hamas charter? Do you know? They stay in there, they say, land deals, waste of time. Their goal is to kill Jews. That's it. They want a one-state solution. All Jews dead. Don't take my word for it, go read the thing. Now, this doesn't mean everything Israel does is right. Doesn't mean everything the U.S. does is right. I'm not a, my country right or wrong. No. If we do something wrong, we need to call it out. If they do something wrong, we need to call it out. But don't tell me an organization that has in their charter that their purpose is to murder Jews, that we ought to be protesting for that. Wake up. Know what you're doing before you go out there and do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you, Frank.
All right, thank you. And next time I'll tell you what I really think.